Thank you for joining us again at Voice of Rohingya Radio, a media broadcast of Friends of Rohingya USA, a registered nonprofit offering social and humanitarian support to people in need. Voice of Rohingya Radio is your source for news concerning struggles the ethnic minorities of Burma face each week. We provide exclusive interviews, reports from inside the border, and the latest news from reputable sources around the world. We ask that you take a moment and go to friendsofrohingya.org for up-to-date news and information concerning this program and how you can get involved. You can learn more about the Rohingya cause by supporting Friends of Rohingya USA today. Voice of Rohingya Radio is the only news source of its kind in the English-speaking world, bringing you the latest news in a convenient format and keeping you informed and involved. You can listen to our program each week, Sundays at 7 p.m. Pacific Time, or search for us on SoundCloud.com. To sponsor our program, simply log on to our website or send us an email to support@friendsofrohingya.org. It is June 7th, 2015. For Voice of Rohingya Radio, I'm your host, Zach Taylor. Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has constituted a special committee to provide relief to Rohingya Muslims. A meeting of the special committee will be held in Islamabad tomorrow, according to Interior Minister Chaudhry Nisar. The committee includes Nisar, advisor to Prime Minister on Foreign Affairs, Sartaj Aziz, and advisor to the Prime Minister Tariq Fatimi, to suggest measures and relief efforts from Pakistan for the Rohingya Muslims of Myanmar. The committee will meet on Sunday. Nisar said that the Premier and federal ministries had expressed their concerns of the plight of the Rohingya during a cabinet meeting. Further, Nisar called upon international organizations to take notice of genocide of Rohingya Muslims. The Interior Minister said the silence of United Nations, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and other world bodies over the massacre of Muslims in Myanmar has raised many questions. The chairman of the town Barai, Malik Riaz, announced a sum of nearly $1 million aimed at providing relief to the troubled Rohingya Muslim community in Burma. Meanwhile, President Barack Obama has urged Myanmar to end discrimination against its ethnic Rohingya minority if it wants to succeed in its democratic transition from decades of junta rule. Obama has thrown his political weight behind the complex transition in Myanmar, which was ruled by the military with an iron fist until reforms began in 2011. Tens of thousands of Rohingya have lived in displacement camps since 2012, when deadly communal violence tore through the western state of Rakhine. The Rohingya have been discriminated against significantly, and that's part of the reason they're fleeing, Obama said on Monday, June 1st, in Washington, at an event with young leaders from Southeast Asia. Addressing what is required for Myanmar to succeed, Obama said one of the most important things is to put an end to discrimination against people because of what they look like and what their faith is. I think if I were a Rohingya, I would want to stay where I was born, but I'd want to make sure that my government was protecting me and that people were treating me fairly. He added, and that's why it's so important, I think, as part of the democratic transition, to take very seriously this issue of how the Rohingya are treated. During his last visit to the nation in November last year, Obama warned that Myanmar's reforms were by no means complete or irreversible, citing the cramping of freedom of expression, ongoing conflicts, and the treatment of Myanmar's minority groups, especially the Rohingya. In other news, American actor Matt Dillon put a rare star-powered spotlight on Myanmar's long-persecuted Rohingya Muslims visiting a hot, squalid camp for tens of thousands displaced by violence and a port that has been one of the main launching pads for their new exodus by sea. It was heartbreaking, he said, after meeting a young man with a raw open leg wound from a road accident and no means to treat it. Mothers carrying babies with clear signs of malnutrition stood listlessly outside row after row of identical bamboo huts, toddlers playing nearby in the chalky white dust. No one should have to live like this. People are really suffering, said Dillon, one of the first celebrities to get a first-hand look at what life is like for Rohingya in the western state of Rakhine. They are being strangled slowly, they have no hope for the future and nowhere to go. I've been to some places where the threats of violence seem more imminent, said Dillon, who has also visited refugee camps in Sudan, the Congo, and elsewhere. Here it is something else. It feels more like the people are going to be left to wither away and die. Dillon said he decided to come to Myanmar following a desperate, urgent appeal by Rohingya activist Thun Keen at a Refugees International fundraiser in Washington, D.C. just over a month ago. In Japan, to promote his new television series, Wayward Pines, he decided it was a good time to make the trip. He spoke to 2 teenage boys who tried to flee by boat, only to find themselves in the hands of human traffickers, and was chased away by armed security guards when trying to snap pictures of the last standing Rohingya neighborhood in the state capital, a ghetto surrounded by tall walls, topped by rolls of heavy barbed wire. But what really choked him up were the camps, with him saying that it affected him more than he thought it would. While there were clear signs of humanitarian agencies active, new latrines, well-placed hand pumps, concrete open sewers, he noted in contrast to camps he'd visited in Sudan and the Congo that he didn't run into a single Western aid worker during his 2-day visit. Nor were NGO trucks rumbling through with medical equipment, food, or other supplies, due primarily to severe restrictions placed on aid agencies by the government following pressure from Buddhist extremists. A lot of people are suffering, he said. I'm really glad I had a chance to come to see for myself what is happening here. You are listening to Voice of Rohingya Radio. Thanks again for listening to Voice of Rohingya Radio, your source for Rohingya news. We'd like to remind you to log on to www.friendsofrohingya.org to get involved and to show your support. The custodian of the 2 holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud of Saudi Arabia, received the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Muhammad Najib Abdul Razak, at Al Salam Palace recently. During the meeting, they reviewed bilateral relations and cooperation between the 2 countries in various fields, ways of enhancing them, and the latest developments at Islamic and international arenas. They also discussed the policy of racial discrimination and ethnic cleansing being practiced against Rohingya Muslims and the need to address it in the framework of the resolutions of the Organization of Islamic Conference, the United Nations, and the principles of universal human rights. They also reviewed the kingdom's outstanding efforts to provide humanitarian assistance to them. In other news, ASEAN countries can work together, influence one another, and even encourage others to tackle serious problems, Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong said, but the group cannot solve all problems and cannot compel any member to act in a certain way, he said in an interview with 17 visiting journalists from 9 other ASEAN countries on Thursday. Mr. Lee also said that ongoing economic integration was helping to promote development across Southeast Asia, but on some issues like the refugee crisis, he said ASEAN is not one country, and it's impossible for ASEAN to say, you do that and you put a stop to this. Countries have to tackle these problems themselves, he said in a response to Myanmar journalists who asked him to comment on foreign media criticism of the grouping as toothless over the humanitarian crisis. Thousands fleeing persecution and deprivation in Myanmar and Bangladesh were stranded in the Straits of Malacca last month until Malaysia and Indonesia agreed to accept them temporarily. Human trafficking camps and mass graves have also been discovered in Malaysia and Thailand. In his most detailed remarks yet on the latest humanitarian crisis, Mr. Lee expressed sympathy for the plight of the Rohingya, a term he noted Myanmar does not use. Mr. Lee said there was a common ASEAN view on the matter, but in terms of nuance, different countries have their different positions. Singapore's position is that it is in no position to judge the merits of the various claims. It desires only to see the disputes managed peacefully and in accordance with international law. The government of Afghanistan joined in strongly condemning sectarian violence against Muslims in Burma, where scores of people have been tortured and killed. Islamic Republic of Afghanistan strongly denounces the sectarian violence against Muslims in Burma, as a result of which a large number of innocent people have been killed, a statement by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said. The statement further added that the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan considers the brutal torture and killing of defenseless and oppressed people, including women, children, and the elderly, as inhumane and contrary to the values of human rights. In other news, an arrest warrant has been issued for a high-ranking army officer over human trafficking, Thai police said Tuesday, making him the first military figure in Thailand to be implicated in the grim trade in migrants from Myanmar and Bangladesh. In recent weeks, more than 3,500 Rohingya Muslims have arrived on Thai, Malaysian, and Indonesian soil, prompting a regional migration crisis. Rights groups have long accused officials in junta-ruled Thailand of turning a blind eye to human trafficking or even complicity in the trade, but until now, no army official has ever been implicated. A court had issued an arrest warrant for Lieutenant General Manas Kongpan and his involvement in human trafficking. Police are confident in the evidence, the Thai National Police Chief told reporters ahead of a press conference about Thailand's anti-trafficking operations at police headquarters in Bangkok. I am confident he will not flee, he said, adding that police had not yet contacted the military about handing Manas over to them. Thanks again for listening to Voice of Rohingya Radio, a weekly news program bringing you up-to-date information about the Rohingya people in Myanmar. You can catch our broadcast every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Time here in the United States by logging on to vorradio.org, or you can join our page on Facebook to find more information on the program. For Voice of Rohingya Radio, this is Zach Taylor, signing out.